Hi, I'm Karen of Art Party Unlimited, and today we're going to be painting a simple sunflower for you guys. We're going to start with our paint colors. I'll put those up on the screen for you, as well as the oil painting brushes that you're going to need. And then we're going to be working on painting sunflower facing front, sunflower facing to the side, and showing you how to do some pretty leaves to go with it. So here we go. The first thing you're going to need is what is this? This is a floral round brush, and I'm going to take it and dip it in a little bit of medium. And then I'm going to get just a little bit of my cadmium red medium here and loosen that up so I can sketch with it to lay in where my sunflower is going to go. I'm going to come up here and just don't want to make this too big because I want a circular shape that's about where this is the center of your sunflower. So you don't want it to grow too large or you won't have room to get your petals on, or they'll be overhanging off the edge of your canvas, and that's fine. And just to let you know, canvas-wise, I'm using a canvas board today. You can hear it's actual canvas that's mounted on a board. You can get these in varying qualities. I'm using just a student grade one today that's on cardboard, but they also have gesso boards that are like a hard board, and they're archival quality. You can get really nice ones. But the board handles a little bit differently than the canvases, so if you're ever interested in trying them, they are just another option for you besides your stretched canvas. This, I've applied a layer of black gesso, which is an acrylic primer for your canvas, and I've allowed that to dry. You could do it, get it on there and then blow dry it if you haven't primed your canvas yet, and be ready to start in no time at all. That black gesso gives us a nice dark layer to start with so that we get our shadows in there, and it's kind of neat and dramatic to paint our flowers on there. So here we go. I've got that circle that's going to be the eye of my sunflower, and then I want to get a little bit more of this cadmium red and a little bit of oil painting medium. I'm using Bob Ross oil painting medium today, but you could use whatever you've got oil painting medium wise, or stand oil, linseed oil. And I'm going to come down here and make kind of the base, the kind of back side of this second little flower. And I think I might even like to have one up here. This painting just feels like it needs a little something. Now I'm using a square canvas today. You can use whatever shape you want. If you have an 11 by 14 or a 16 by 20, any of those are fine. A rectangular shape works great, and my sample painting actually was on a rectangle. So I just washed this round brush because I don't need that red anymore. I'm going back into my medium, and this time I'm going to go into my cadmium yellow light. I've got two cadmium yellows here today. One is a light one, and it's a little cooler, and then I've got a cad red medium, and it's a really pretty color. It's a little bit, you can see it's a little warmer, a little more toward the orange side. If you don't have cadmium yellow medium, definitely one that I love to use. You can get it, if you need to, you could always add a little bit of your red to your cad red light, just a teeny bit, just to warm it up a little bit. But here's what I'm going to do with that. Just kind of make a little random squiggle there. Maybe a little bit more. This is very wet paint. I've used a little dip of medium, and then I'm going to go around the sky. And then watch as I go around. See how it's blending? I've got the red in the center and the yellow on the outside. And as I blend, I'm getting that orange where the yellow and the red have mixed. I'll kind of do the same thing down here. There we go. I'm just wiping this brush off because now I'm going to go back into my medium again, and I'm going to my Ultramarine Blue this time. And I'm just going to paint in where some of my leaves are going to go. Let's see, along with leaves, I think I'll also paint in where a stem. That's pretty dark, and it's going to get covered, so don't worry too much about it right now, but there we go. Let's kind of block in where some things are going to go. And then I want to start to place some leaves. And so my leaves, they're kind of shaped like diamonds, kind of like a kite shape. And remember, a sunflower has a big broad leaf, so don't make them too skinny. Let's see. And at this point, my leaves are going to be super sketchy. I'm just putting in a little bit of indication where they're going to go. Let's see, maybe we want one up here. It's poking out behind this guy. You can always add in more leaves later if you feel like you need more. All right. So wherever you want your leaves, you're going to just block in. And I'm wiping off my round brush. And now I am going to this is a number 10 bright. You could also, well, let's see, that's probably the best one I have out right now to use for this. I'm going to go into my medium and get a big dollop. If you had your 3/4 inch bright, that would be equivalent, that 3/4 inch floral brush. And I'm just going to put some dollops of this oil painting medium around my painting. Then I will blend, and I'm coming at my painting at a 90-degree angle so that I can really just kind of go back and forth. I'll use little X's, little back and forth motions to kind of scrub that in between all the elements of my painting. And this is the purpose of this is to give it a nice slick surface so that as you're painting your background colors on, it's going to cause everything to blend together really nicely and slide. The flip side to that is you don't want too much medium because then you're gonna be sliding all over the place, and you don't necessarily want that either. So we want to be kind of measured in how much we put on. So this will just take a couple of minutes to spread this everywhere. I'm not going inside the shapes I created because I want to just leave them open so that we're going to add some medium to those as well. I don't want to add it now because first of all, we'll lose our sketch, and then second, we'll just, we could end up with too much medium later if we put medium on now in those areas. So we're just going to go around everything. Little scrubby motions. Don't be tempted to go back and get more medium here because too much medium will not be your friend. It will cause things to kind of blossom and kind of run off later. And by the time you find out you've got too much medium on there, I can almost guarantee you it's too late to correct it. So just scrub it in, go back up to a spot that's got a lot, and bring it down to spots that don't have as much if you need to. There we go. And then just to be on the safe side, I don't always do this, but I'm just going to show you a little tip. that we use is you can take a clean towel. I happen to have these blue shop towels today, which you can use any kind of paper towel or a painting rag, like an old t-shirt or something. And this is a clean one. I'm gonna lay it on my canvas. Just kind of lay it down there gently, whoops. And then I'm taking a 1-inch landscape brush. I'm gonna use that with some pressure and some little X motions and rub it all over that paper towel. That's just gonna serve the purpose of taking off the extra medium if I happen to get too much in any of the spots. Uh-oh, I'm kind of a little canvas adjustment needing to go on here. There we go. All right. Let's kind of even things all out there. Now I'm ready to put on my background. For my background, I'm going back to that, well, this is my number 10 bright. It would be about the same as your 3/4 floral, like I mentioned already. And I'm gonna start putting on some background. And because we've got this nice dark background, I want it to really pop with some bright patches of light. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go into my titanium white. I went into the very edge of my pile of white. I don't want to go like dabbing into the middle. That's going to be too gloppy. So go into the edge and pull some out into a little runway like so. And then, let's see, I'll get a little bit more. Groom it on my palette a little bit. And then I'm going to bring it up and let's see. I want a bright patch right up here. I came at my canvas at 90 degrees again so that I can just kind of, with little X marks, go back and forth and scrub that in. And as I get further away from where I started, you will see that it gets kind of more and more blended in to the canvas. And that's what we want. There we go. I'm just wiping that. Load up with the same color again. I'll bring it up into a different spot. Let's have a really bright patch over here. And I'm also overlapping all of my like outlined elements, my sunflower and my leaves. You don't want like empty space between your background and your elements that you're painting. There we go. Okay, next I'm going to go into my cadmium yellow again. Here we go. I just need a little bit of that. And bring it back up here. See that, how by not loading my brush again, but continuing to blend in the little X's back and forth, kind of scrubbing it onto my canvas, it gets a little bit less and a little bit less as I go out. It's even okay if some of the black shows in the background of the canvas. That's just another layer of depth in there. So I'm getting more the same. Let's see, I'll bring it over here. Anywhere you go on with background colors where you've already got white, it's going to cause it to be a little brighter, and that's kind of pretty too. Now at this point, I'm not really worried too much about any brush strokes or whatever that might be in there, because in a few minutes, I am going to show you how to get those brushed out. Okay, at this point, I'm gonna stop for just a minute because I need to wash my brush out because I've done my white and my yellow, and next I wanna add some ultramarine blue, and I don't wanna make it turn green, so I'm gonna take a second, wash the brush, and I'll be right back. All right, I've got my clean number 10 bright again, and I'm going into my Ultramarine Blue, and I just need a little bit because this is only going to really go in one spot up here, kind of like if this were kind of sky, and I want it to go right over a little bit of my white because that'll lighten it up. Otherwise, you won't really be able to see it. Yeah, maybe we need a little bit over here too. Let's just play around. You can put it wherever you want. Your background, like it's your world. If you want to play around and have yours different than mine, that is up to you. There we go. Here we go. I feel like I need a little bit. Maybe I'll go a little bit right in over here. There. Okay, so now I've got all the colors on for my background. I'm just going to wipe off this brush, lay it aside, and I'm going to take this little 1-inch landscape. Well, I say little, but it's the biggest brush I'm using. You might have one that's like this from your Bob Ross kit. This one works great too. I also have this really beautiful one that I like a lot that we just got in from Richeson. We really like these synthetic ones as well. So here we go. I'm going to use this, which is super light pressure, like little butterfly kisses on here to very lightly, little X's at a very steep angle to polish in this background. It really will make it super soft and take out almost all your brush strokes on this one. And I like that for this painting. Sometimes I like my backgrounds to look really brushy and a lot of movement, but for this one, I want it to have sort of that illusion like a photograph would have, where you get that depth of field and everything that's behind your subject looks like just out of focus. That's kind of what we're going for here with this one. So make your background super soft wherever you need to take out brush strokes. And there you go. There. That is super soft and pretty. I'm going to just kind of wipe this brush off. I don't want to put it in the medium, into my paint thinner right now. I don't want to wash it because I want to keep it dry so that if I want to blend anything later, it won't cut through with thinner through my paints. So, okay, so now the next brush that we're going to use, got a couple of choices here. I have my 1/2-inch Floral brush, and you could use that one. And then another brush that I really like to use is this number 6. This is a flat. And a little brush education here. A flat is like a bright in that it's cut straight across the top, but a bright is shorter and straight. A flat has longer bristles that are cut straight across. So I just happen to have my little flat here. It's a number 6, and you can see it's approximately the same width as my 1/2-inch Floral brush. So I'm going to go with my little flat here. I'm dipping in just the corner of my brush into my medium. Well, actually, I want a little dunk. I'm going to do a little dunk of medium, and I'm going into my Ultramarine Blue. And I'm pulling down enough color to make a puddle that is pretty runny. We want it to be really drippy and runny. And then just with the corner of my brush, I'm going into my sap green and make a little mixture that's almost entirely Ultramarine Blue, but just a little bit of sap green. And then in just a second, I'm going to go up to start my leaves. I think I'll start with one of these leaves down here near the bottom, because the ideal is the more you practice on your canvas, the better each element is going to get. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and that way, by the time I work my way up, I will hopefully be getting better. Okay, so this is just a little underpainting that I'm doing. I painted in where my leaf is going to be, and I started on the stem end. And here, I think I'm also going to put this stem back so I can see where we're going. Start at the stem end of your leaf, and up and back, up and back, up and back. You're making like a little fanned out shape. Let's see, here's another one. Stem end, up, back, up, back. And that's just blocking in where your little leaf is going to eventually be. Get more medium whenever you need to. Keep your puddle going here. I'm going to add a little bit more of my sap green again. We want it really dark, so you want it to be mostly blues. Okay, this leaf is really, the stem end would be back behind the sunflower somewhere. So I'll start right on the edge and come out and overlap my sunflower bloom just a little bit. This layer that I'm putting on for my underpainting, it's drippy and runny and wet, but I'm putting it on super thin. We don't want a very thick layer at all because we don't want it to slide around too much underneath when we start to put our sculpting layers on in a minute. Here we go. Here's another one of these ones that's tucked in behind my bloom. Just got a couple more. If you don't have enough paint in your puddle, make sure that you add more medium each time because you want this really thin. Let's see, I've got a couple down here. All right, I'm trying to decide, was this going to be one? I think it is now, whether it was before or not. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to use the same brush. I'm wiping it off with my paper towel. And this time, I'm going to just get a little dip of medium, not the big dunk that we got previously. And I'm coming over into my sap green. I'll pull out a little bit of my ultramarine blue, but more sap green this time. So instead of it being mostly blue, it's going to be like half and half blue and green now. And not as runny. I just want it to be silky and smooth this time. I'm pulling, 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 loading up my brush. And I'm going to show you a stroke for creating your leaves. One word of advice for you is that after you see me do this a few times, you might want to work on your palette or on a piece of paper or a spare canvas and just kind of see if you can get these leaf strokes done and then start to put them on your painting. But again, I'm going to start down at the bottom because this is going to be more of our focal point. So hopefully you start down here and you get better by the time you're up here. So I'm going to lay my brush at I call it the hip of the leaf, so the widest part of the leaf. And I'm just kind of pulling back. I twist my brush a little bit and lift when I get to the stem end of my brush. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Turn my brush over and go this way. Gather up some more of that nice smooth paint. And watch this. Push. So a lot of pressure. My bristles are really bending. And then as I get to the middle, I'm lifting up off of my canvas. Give my leaf a nice point right there. Push and lift. And let's go this way. So push and lift. Your strokes should overlap one another a little bit so that you don't have a lot of, you shouldn't have real space between them. Push and lift. All right. And one thing that you'll notice is you should still see a little bit of that underpainting underneath. You should see that dark blue in the center. You shouldn't cover it completely up. So we'll pick another one. Push, lift, push, lift. And this is kind of the middle layer of your leaves, so you're going to go back and put another layer on. So don't worry if your leaf shape isn't just so right yet, because you're going to have another chance to change the shape a little bit in a minute. So your first stroke, so stroke and lift, and then just leave it. So place it, bend your bristles, a lot of pressure, and then lift as you get to the center. And every single stroke is coming back down to where the stem would be attached. And then see how this leaf overlaps that one? So it looks like this one's on top or in front. All right, just a few more. We can see these a little better, a little brighter. That's a really nice thing with painting with the oils, is that it picks up your underpainting just a little bit, or your background. Even this leaf that I just did got a little bit of orange onto it from the sunflower itself. So with florals, that makes them look really nice, and they look like they're reflecting the light around them. They look like they're a little transparent, light shining through, which is a really nice effect. So push, pull, lift. That is every stroke with these. We've got a lot of little leaves on here. Well, I'll give you a lot of practice. And you don't need to do as many as I did if you're not feeling it. You could always go back and cover up a spot that was going to be a leaf with some background color. It's up to you. Okay, so that is the sculpting layer of our leaf. And our next step is to put some sort of highlights on there. For that, I'm going to go back to my palette and into, let's see, I think I want to go into my cadmium yellow light. I wiped my brush off with my paper towel, so it's going to still be a little bit greenish, which is great, but mostly yellow. And then I'm going to bring this over, which one do we want to start with? Let's go with this guy here. Onto just the very edge of your leaves. And there, so now that one's back there. Let's put a little on this one. I'm almost just doing a little flick off the edge because I don't want it to come down into the way middle of it. I just want it to be a little touch of light glinting off that edge to show you where the edge of that leaf is. Okay, and then I want to show you something that I see a lot of when you first start painting leaves. And I had to work through this as well. But sometimes you go to put that highlight on and you get something that looks more like this. Brush stroke, brush stroke, brush stroke, brush stroke. And that's not quite as nice as these where it just looks like the connected edge of a leaf. So to fix that, I'm just going to wipe off my brush and go back with no color and just kind of go in between and blend that edge a little bit. Look at that. I can even kind of come from the center and bring up a little bit of that dark back into it. So I kind of like sometimes to show you what I can anticipate from having you guys in class in person, what issues you might be having. And here I go. I'm going to get a little bit more of my cad yellow with just a little teeny drop of medium and do a few more of these. And you can see it really does not take much of this yellow to really highlight these leaves. After I get started, I'm not usually even really reloading my brush. This guy down here at the bottom, I'm not really even going to give it as much because it's just kind of maybe more in the shadow. Okay, so now I would like to add a little bit of color on just the other edge, kind of picking up some of the reflected light on that side, and I'll show you how to do that. All right, I washed off my number 6 flat brush, and I'm going into a little bit of my turquoise and just a little bit of my mauve. Mauve is kind of a nice violet color, and that's just going to cut that turquoise color just a little bit. I'm not adding any medium this time. I'm going to go right up here to one of my leaves. Let's see, let's start up here. And I'm going to go on the opposite side from where I put that yellow color. Look at that pretty way that just highlights your little leaf there. All right, same thing, a little bit of mauve, a little bit of turquoise. If you really like the mauve, you can go with less turquoise and more mauve. That's up to you. And I'll kind of show you how that looks down here toward the bottom too. Let me pick up more turquoise on this one. Let's do this one with, oh, that's pretty. I think it's nice to kind of vary them. They don't all have to have exactly the same tone reflecting there. Remember, that's the same stroke, but you're going to just catch the edge of your leaf and come off the pressure really quickly. And what you're looking for is this patch of dark to remain, this shadow in the center of your leaf. So you're pressing really hard on the edge, but you're lifting off really quickly so that it keeps that center nice and dark, like it's shadowed. That leaf's going to get a lot of petals on it, so. All right. spots I want to just blend a little bit. And my leaves are feeling done to me. You don't want to fuss with them too much because they're kind of not the star of the show here. And almost always your first stroke is better than anything you're going to put on later. So you want to kind of just stop. Don't fool with them anymore. All right, now we're going to start to work on our sunflower. And you'll be amazed at how simple this little part is. I'm going to, I could still use that exact same brush, but I think I'm going to show you with the 1/2 inch Floral Bright. And for that, I'm going into my medium again. And I'd like to take a little bit of this cadmium yellow light, pull it down. It's mixing with a tiny bit of that green that I already was using, and that's fine. I'm making a drippy, runny, wet puddle. And then on my palette, I have just the teeniest little bit of burnt sienna. I'm going to grab just the teeniest little bit with the corner of my brush and bring that up. If you don't have the burnt sienna, you could use just the teeniest little bit of maybe your Cad Red light or whatever cadmium red you have there. So I'm going to tap this off because I don't want to have it too drippy. Get it loaded up. And we're going to make some petals here. And we're going to go all the way around our sunflower with each petal kind of ending in that center space. So let me just show you what I mean. I'm going to create a petal by placing my brush kind of at an angle like that. A lot of pressure, really push, pull, and as you come into your sunflower, you're lifting. Then I'm going on to go the opposite way. So see, I had one go this way. This one's going to come this way. These are kind of like the little background to your petals. I feel like I had mine a little too drippy runny. I'm going to add a little more paint to it. And maybe some of them don't have the double side like I just showed you. Maybe some of them are just one pull with your brush. But the important part is that you're not coming down into the middle. You're pushing really hard when you're up at the point of your leaf and then lifting and coming off the canvas when you get down into the center. And so I'm just going to go all the way around. Some of them might be that double, some of them might be one stroke. Now I've gone over that leaf, so I've kind of picked up a lot of blue on my brush. So I'm going to wipe it off. Go back and get some more yellow. Maybe a little bit more of my burnt sienna. And these are just the underpainting to your leaf, so they don't have to be the perfect shape yet, because you can still shape them some. I'm going to wipe off again. The other thing you could use, I just want to kind of show because I know some of you have other shaped brushes. This is my Floral Filbert. And I'm going to grab a little medium and the same paint with this guy. As you could also use this guy to do it. So whichever one, you can experiment and see which one you're more comfortable with. I'm going back to my bright. And with sunflowers, you can usually see some space in between some of the petals, so don't get them all right on top of one another. If you need to get back from your canvas a little bit to see how they're looking, take a step back and check. But there. That's kind of the underpainting then for my first layer of petals. And they're going to look a little bit darker than the next layer because I added some medium, which makes the paint more transparent. And I added a little bit of that burnt sienna. Next, I'm going to go into my cadmium red light again. But this time, I'm not adding any medium. So I'm actually going into the opposite side of the pile so that I can get dry paint with no medium in it and no other color. So pure yellow. And I'm going to bring that up. I loaded my brush really well. Groom, groom, groom on the palette to get your paint really soft and silky. And I'm going to come up here to my sunflower and let's see, I'll pick a petal that I want to brighten up and lay that there. Push really hard to start, remember that, but then lift as you come down. And then I'll just wipe off a little bit and I'll reload and I'll keep going. So now we're highlighting our little petals. And I don't know if you can see what I'm doing with my brush, but I'm starting out with it vertical, then I'm pressing and turning it a little more horizontal toward the center of the petal, then turning it back vertical as I come down in a lot of cases, just so that it gets skinnier at the bottom. Right. And some of those might just have one brush stroke per petal, others might have two. Maybe some of those I'm not even going to go back and put another layer on, because see this guy that's back in the back? It just makes that petal look like it's underneath this other row of petals. And I have actually run out of cadmium yellow lights. I'm going to grab some more real quick and just keep going. And you're going to go all the way around, highlighting your petals. Wipe your brush off whenever it starts to pick up that underpainting paint and getting too dark. If you don't like exactly where the one petal was placed, you can kind of just go beside it. That background, the little petal will just look like just that. It'll look like it's in the background. There's a two-stroke petal. Now let me show you a one-stroke petal again. Just there we go. Now we've got a lot of really nice bright petals. And I'm going to wipe off this brush and I'm going to go back to my palette to my cadmium red, yellow medium. And this is a warmer yellow. And you can see it's a little thicker than that other one, so I'm going to groom it. And see, this is going to give us some contrast between our two yellows. Like I said, you could also change up your yellow if you just have this one by adding just the teeniest little bit of cadmium red and experimenting to see, just getting it slightly warmer. But by grooming it like this, I get it nice and silky. And then when I go back up here, it'll come off my brush really nicely. I don't want anything gloppy or sticky on there. So here I go. I'm going to come up to the top of my flower. And I can lay a few little petals in. Maybe they're in between where those others were. Got some green on my brush, so I'm wiping that and I'll reload. And maybe some of these want a little like highlight of this warmer color on the edges of them. So in some cases, you're adding a whole extra petal, but in other cases, you might just be highlighting the petal that's there. Whoa, you see how that adds a whole nother dimension to your sunflower, like a whole nother layer of petals? I'm also making this layer, some of them are a little shorter, and in between the petals that are already there. There. Just wherever you think it needs another little petal, you're pushing and lifting. Push, lift. Oops, I just got a lot of yellow back on my background where I don't want it, but I can show you really quickly how to fix that little mistake. So let me just get a couple more petals in, like in these. But this little spot right here, I can just take any clean brush, and this one I haven't used yet. It's just a little flat brush, and it's clean and dry. And watch, I can take it and just wiggle it here. Look, it's kind of like a little magic paint eraser. Wipe it off once it starts to pick up some paint. There we go. No harm done. And that little spot is probably going to be covered anyway by some petals from this guy. All right, so I'm feeling pretty good about the amount of petals that I have in here for this one. Maybe I want a little one right there. You could probably add petals all day, but try not to get too carried away. I know it's fun. But we still got these two little guys to do. And for these, we want to do the same thing we did before. So I need to take my paper towel, and I'm just going to wipe out most of that Cad Yellow Medium and go back into my Cad Yellow Light. And the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to paint the little sunflowers that are kind of leaning over. And I have wiped it out, and I'm going to load up with some cadmium yellow light. And I'm going to get a little dip of medium on my brush. I don't want it drippy, runny, wet, but I want it really kind of a little thinner. And that little teeny bit of burnt sienna in there. And this is going to go to create a sort of a back row of petals back here for this guy. So these petals are kind of going to come into here. And notice the shape, the back side of the sunflowers here, and they're pointed out that way. And I think while I'm at it, I'm going to do the same ones up here. So this one kind of tucks in a little curve there. And then you want these to not come out too far. There we go. So you can see those are clearly going to be facing that other way. Then I'm wiping off my brush again, and I want to grab my cadmium. Well, actually, we're still going to do the same thing. Cadmium yellow light, a little dip of medium, and some burnt sienna, because now we need to get this other row of petals, and they come down. It's kind of easier to show you than to tell you what these guys are doing, but so see, they're kind of just all kind of tucked in there. I do you another row up here. There we go. You'll be able to see them a little bit better when I put the highlights on. And if you need to watch me do a whole one and then go back and paint it, that might actually be a really good idea. Because now, before I do any more on those, I want to lay in where my green is going to go. And for that, I'm going to go to my small round floral brush and just a little dip of medium. I'm going into my sap green. And I'm going to make some neat little shapes down at the bottom of my sunflower, because they kind of sit on that flat, like almost like a plate down at the bottom. So I'm going to go a little circle and pull it up so that it's like a little leaf, and I'll have a little row of those. There. Highlight that a little bit so you can see it a little better. So I'm pressing and kind of twist and pull so that I get a little teardrop sort of shape. It was just green in the first layer, and now I'm adding a little bit of yellow so we can see it a little bit better. We might have to go over these a little bit more if our petals cover them up a little bit. All right, so now back to my other brush, and this time this is my 1/2 inch bright again. I'm going into just my dry cadmium yellow light, and I'm going to come in here and add some more petals. And so these are going to go down, kind of go right in between where I just put those little green things. And these are your bright highlighted petals. That one got a little thick, so I'm just going to go right over that one. There. And same thing up here. I'm going to go back to my round and grab that bit of sap green mixed with some yellow so that I can come up here and give it this little, these are those little sepals that would be on the bud before it opens up. And it's kind of just a little teardrop shape. And it forms the little platform that your sunflower sits on. You could even come at this point and give it its little stem that goes up under there. I'm just going to give everybody a stem right now. Sunflowers, being pretty big, have nice, thick, fat stems. There we go. And we'll probably add some more detail to that later, but for now it's in. All right. Now I'm going to highlight these petals with my cadmium yellow light. Again, I'm just going to tuck them down in to those. I even pick up some cad yellow medium as well. I've used up a lot of my cad yellow this time. I keep having to get a little bit more. There we go. All right. So I tucked those down into the little green bits that I made, and now I'm going to come back with a little bit more green and some medium on that same round brush and just kind of add a little bit of detail there of these little green leafy things coming up on the edges. And if you use a little pure yellow, you can even highlight them a little bit more. Maybe a little yellow on one side of the stem. Let's see, let's do a little blue on the other side of the stem. We'll give it a little shadow under there. Maybe that just gives it that dimension. You can even use a little bit of your plain sap green. You need to create a little edge there. All right, and then I'm gonna go, oh, this one's looking pretty good down here. I don't think I'm gonna really fool with that one, except to maybe add a little shadow with my blue. On the side of my stem there. Connect that stem into that one. There, that was easy. It's really not very many strokes to learn, so once you get them down, you can just put together all kinds of really pretty flowers. So it really is just a matter of practice, practice, practice the individual strokes. Now we're going to work on the center of the sky, and for that, I'm going back to my small floral round. I'm going to wash it. I've got my thinner bucket down here. And just wash it off in my paint thinner. Get it nice and dry. I don't want that thinner in there. And the first color I'm going into is going to be my cadmium red. I have cadmium red medium out here. And I know I wrote cadmium red light on my palette, but that was wrong. So I'm just loading it up, and it can be a little gloppy this time. This is a kind of a final layer, so we don't need to paint anything really on top of it. So I've got some nice amount of cad red on there. And watch this, I'm gonna go. I want it to be kind of random, and I want to be able to see the colors that are underneath. So I want to be able to see a little black. I want to be able to see a little bit of the orange that's already under there. I'm going to go all the way around, the outer edge of this middle. And I'm coming up in between. Every so often, I'm taking a couple little very soft light. I'm not putting a lot of pressure. I'm just tapping it on oh so gently. And if the paint isn't just kind of jumping off your paintbrush onto the canvas, then you need to load up a little more. So I'm starting in the middle and I'm coming out. It's blending I'm really just kind of blending away the edge of that line that very first line that we painted, that red one, and then we put the yellow on top. Taking it up in between the sunflower petals, just a little bit. Less is more here. Don't get too carried away. Because you can always go back and put a few more little dabs in there. There we go. And put it up again. Tap, tap, tap. There, that hopefully is giving it kind of the look that your petals are coming out of this center. So the center has some heft to it. It's nice and thick. Okay, I'm wiping off that color and I'm going to go into my, what is this? Burnt Sienna. It's the lighter of my browns. And I'm going to tap, maybe not quite as much of the sienna color. I'm going to go around and do a row of that. Very random, tap, tap at all different spots. Some of them are overlapping the red, so they mix a little bit. But in all cases, I can still see a little bit of my black showing underneath. So there we go. So by putting that dark sienna or burnt sienna there, it overlapped the red and those two start to blend, so it gives a little bit of a graduated color difference there. Okay, next I am going to go with my burnt umber. That might be like a Van Dyke brown also. You could play around with either color. And I'm going to put that layer in, and the same thing, I'm going to go from the center and go into my previous layer so that it just blends a little bit. Now if you're stroke, 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 and you're really mixing this, that is not what you want to do. Notice I am just tapping, the paint is coming off on my brush really easily so that the colors, they're blending incidentally, but I'm not purposely like really mixing the colors on my canvas. And I'm going to stop there for a second because I want to add some other colors in there. And for my next colors that I want to do, I want to have a clean brush. All right, I've got my small round brush nice and clean. And now I'm going to pick up a little bit of my turquoise. And that is going to go in here. Kind of right on the edge and also on top of the layer of the dark brown that I put in. I'm going to step back, see where you might need it to be to shape the center of your sunflower. There we go. All right, now I'm going to wipe it off really well. Because now I want to go into my yellows. You can go in either one. The cad yellow light is going to come off your brush a little easier because it's a little softer. So a little bit of that. And this I'm just going to kind of sprinkle in here. So those little bits in the center where the pollen is. You want these super tiny. Not a lot of yellow here. And I didn't even need to reload. If any of them look too bright to you, you can just kind of touch them again and they'll kind of blend in just a little bit. All right. Now in the very center, I want more of my burnt umber. It's going to be really dark. And if it's a little thicker, like if I lay it in there and it kind of pops up a little bit, that's kind of nice on an oil painting. It'll take it a little longer to dry, but it makes for a nice effect. And then I have a little bit of ivory black. If you've got some black, that can go here in the very middle. And then if you want to brighten up that center a little bit, go back into your dark sienna. There you go. You don't want to blend in too much more than that right in the middle because you want it to just have those individual little taps of color in there and not get too muddy. But believe it or not, we're done. So I hope you enjoyed painting some bright and happy sunflowers with me today. The last thing you can do is if you've got a little detail brush or a little script liner and you want to load up with some medium and in one of your colors and use that to sign your painting, you'll be all done. Thank you so much for painting with me in Art Party Unlimited today.